Small audience. Everybody's over 14. And this is my visual over here. This is everybody I'm going to be. It's in the history over here. Harry J. Anslinger. Got some acetyl cocaine. Some medicinal opium, emperor, cannabis, William Randolph Hearst, and some marinol. Okay, speech is going to be on medical marijuana. I'm going to start off talking about the history, and I'm going to talk about all the way up to its prohibition and the up-to-date what's going on with medical marijuana to this date. And marijuana goes all the way back to 5,000 years ago, where Emperor Shenyang, who was not only an emperor, but he also was did research for medicine, and he would test different herbs that he found and see how they could take care of different illnesses. And one that he picked out, he found that he could use for lots of sicknesses is cannabis. Cannabis is it's an herb. That's what we call in Spanish name marijuana. And back in 5,000 years ago, he found it useful for stuff like menstrual cramps. He would put it in food for women when they had menstrual cramps every month. He would drink one of his potions with cannabis in it and make them feel better. And he would also use it as a anesthesia, where he would mix it with red wine and put his patients out. He did surgery on him. His research was passed down for hundreds of years, where it eventually made it into the first pharmaceutical book, and where William O'Shaughnessy, he was a surgeon from Ireland. He actually brought it over to the Western worlds and started doing his own research on it, where he found on his patients that it increased appetites, less pain, and just gave his patients a more positive, cheerful attitudes. For the next 60 years, marijuana gained more and more approval with the doctors and patients, and was prescribed for hundreds of illnesses. During the same time period, over hundreds of medical research papers were actually written on marijuana. At the end of the 19th century, over 250,000 Americans were either addicted to opiates or cocaine. And so eventually, by 1914, they started the Harrison Narcotics Act. This was the very first law enacted in the United States to restrict drugs. And this eventually did away with the drugs, the cocaine and opium-based medicines. Like right here, I got some cough syrup made from opium, and I got some right here. I got some toothache drops made from cocaine. But through this first restriction, marijuana was not part of it. It made it through that very first. It wasn't considered a bad drug, addictive drug like opium and cocaine. In the beginning of the 1930s, it started to lose a little bit of popularity because there was no more cocaine and opium. And they pretty much drove that out of the country. There was nothing really there was really no drug problem. Well, the leader of the Bureau of Narcotics, Harry J. Anslinger, was really kind of almost out of a job. There was nothing to push. There was no cocaine, no opium. There was no problems with that anymore. So he started kind of I guess you'd call it a hate campaign against marijuana. Started telling stuff like, if you smoke marijuana, you're going to kill your family. and he wasn't really getting this out there. So he got together with a journalist named William Randolph Hearst. This man owned 24 daily newspapers in over 19 major cities. And William Randolph Hearst actually had a lot of invested in the timber industry. And the timber, their only competition was the hemp industry. Hemp back then was a real major crop. They used to, it kind of took the place of cotton, and you could also make hemp paper out of it. So between those two, eventually they swayed Americans' views on medical marijuana, and it was illegal. So up until now, where 1996, 21 minutes. Yeah, up until 1996, California enacted first marijuana, to legalize medical marijuana. And the last two administrations of President Clinton and President Bush they weren't going to give states their rights. They didn't want to give California their right. You know, they may have voted, the people voted, but they're saying if anybody that thinks that it's illegal, it's not, because they're going to send the DEA, which is it's still a federal offense. So if you get busted, if you have marijuana on you, you can still be prosecuted. They weren't going to abide by the state rights. Well, last year, one of the President Obama, his attorney came out and said that they weren't going to federally prosecute anybody anymore. So since then, now there is 14 states now that actually have approved medical marijuana, and there's 13 more that's in legislation right now who are looking into making marijuana legal again. So that's my presentation. Thank you.